within all those parameters, the sheriff in that town has to come up with another way of approaching things, because it's very clear what they have decided is we're going to neuter the SEC to the point where we're comfortable paying whatever tariff they impose on us to give us the patina of a well-regulated industry. It is not well-regulated.
Absolutely, it is not well-regulated. And you're absolutely right that the fines that these companies pay, just a cost of doing business for them. Right. That's absolutely right. And what I would say, John, is if we want to have a conversation about how to fix that problem, that conversation's got to include doing something about the amount of money the finance industry gives to Congress. The amount of money that's spent by these sort of the Chamber of Commerce and the Business Roundtable on these congressional races is so astonishing and completely non-transparent that what we end up with is a system where members of Congress don't want to fund the SEC to do its job.
It's a capture. They've been captured.
It's worse than, listen, John, when I was at the SEC,
I think it's fair to say that most retail investors by now have seen at least a portion, if not all, of the interviews between Jon Stewart and Gary Gensler from last year. But the clip that we just watched actually took place a week later, and that was between the former SEC chair, Rob Jackson, and Jon Stewart. Now, that interview, I felt like we had a little more truth, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with the fact that he is the former chair. But they did talk about capture and lobbyists, and I tell you, being down in DC this weekend really opened my eyes as to how the swamp operates and how it got that nickname. We're going to touch on that and a few other things that actually happened over the weekend while I was away. But before we do any of that and get way too far ahead of ourselves,
cue the speeder.
This is the way.
Counted out all the shares being sold. There was something wrong. There were too many shares being sold each day. There was too much action in the markets.
Just in 2 weeks in July, the fails to deliver were $17 billion.
Everyone knows the problem. We know it's all about money. It's all about Wall Street making money at the expense of an honest stock market.
In Texas, simple version, we call that stealing.
I never thought 20 years later the entire world would still be crying out for justice.
Will someone take action on behalf of individual investors?
20 years later, in the year 2023, the fight for a fair and honest Wall Street continues.
good evening, beautiful people. Guys, what's going on? It is Monday, January 30th, 2023, and the voice you just heard in that trailer was from the producer of the Wall Street Conspiracy Movie Part 2, Down the Rabbit Hole, CHRISTINA Copeland. I had the pleasure of meeting her this weekend. Rock solid individual. Girl's got her head on straight, knows what she's talking about. She was just one of the many great connections I was able to make this weekend. Link up with some amazing people. I'm going to get into them later on in the video, but right now I just want to say before we dive into the subject matter, thank you to everyone who supported me, whether it be financially or just kind words or saying that you would bail me out if things went south, whatever the case may be. To everyone who is right now keeping me independent, I really appreciate everything you guys do for me from the bottom of my heart, and none of this is possible without all of you. And I hope that this endeavor will lead to some more relationships down the road, and hopefully eventually we can get to our goal of fixing this market, leveling the playing field for retail. All right, now with all that said, let's talk about what happened in DC this weekend and why the swamp needs to be cleaned out.
You have pension funds that are allowed to gamble with hedge fund operators. So the money that people are saving for their retirement gets flooded into the return that those people get on the games that they're playing in the backroom casino far dwarf what they're giving to the pension holders. And what it says to me is, not only are they not protecting investors, they are actually lubricating the chutes to get investor money to help them play their casino games, and they refer to it as dumb money. And it's very, again, it looks like a scheme to get dumb money so that their system of stocks gets overinflated. Not to mention the whole derivatives and other nonsense that goes on behind the scenes that's really not transparent.
You know, while I was down in DC, I got to meet a lot of different people, from media personalities to documentary filmmakers, CEOs of companies, and of course, retail investors. But there was one class of people that was not represented at all out in front of the SEC over the weekend, and that was the average American retiree who could have their 401k right now or their pension under the control of a predatory hedge fund who is making risky decisions with their money. Now, last year, the SEC toyed around with putting market regulations on pension funds. They would have to have massive amounts of insurance before investing in hedge funds. But so far, that has not come to pass, and the SEC has not put anything into the books yet to protect investors or retirees. And I hope that by bringing this up, the next time there is an Occupy SEC 2023, which seems like right now is going to be in New York, that we'll get a wider range of people, not just retail investors, but maybe someone who's seen some of their 401k wiped out by one of these hedge funds making these risky bets.
So that was interesting. So Gensler brought up, you've got these two polarities. One is capital formation, where you're trying to create a system where there's enough trust in it that people will invest their money into businesses, and those businesses can use that capital to make investments in infrastructure and hire people and all those things. But the other is investor protection. But it seems very clear that investor protection is, again, a facade to really help lubricate and facilitate capital formation for these companies.
Well, I'll say something else about that. You know what I don't understand? What I don't understand is when people talk about those two goals being in tension with each other. Why is it in tension with capital formation to protect investors? To my mind, if you keep people...
Rob, preach, preach!
To my mind, if you keep people from getting screwed over, that'll help capital formation. If you make people believe that the market actually works and isn't a casino, that'll help capital formation. But unfortunately, I think the way people are thinking about it in Washington is you have to choose. Either you make things inexpensive and easy to rip people off, or you make them expensive and companies can't get money. And I always thought this was a false choice, man.
I gotta say, listening to Rob Jackson last year talk about this, I couldn't agree with him more. With more faith in the market, with more transparency for the retail investor, it would only help to strengthen the market, because right now, a lot of retail has lost faith in the market, and no matter what they tell you on TV, I heard about the guy that came on after Mike. The market is not fair right now. There is corruption, there is manipulation, and if we get back to basics, fundamentals and supply and demand, I think that'll be a much stronger market, which will make a much stronger economy, which makes a much stronger country. So I'm not going to talk too much about DC tonight and what happened over the weekend. I'm kind of saving that. I'm going to upload a bunch of footage that I shot and some interviews that I conducted. But I just want to give you guys a quick story. On Friday night, we happened to have ended up in a lobbyist bar. Lobbyists for Congress, the bar that they go to drink after work. And boy, we heard some interesting things from these lobbyists. And I shit you not when I say the first lobbyist that we talked to, before he would even give us his job description or explain to us what it is he actually does, he said, "Just promise me, man, you're not going to haul off and hit me." So that's the kind of weekend Mass had. And I'm going to get into a lot more depth at the end of the week. I'm going to upload a bunch of video footage that I shot, some interviews, and I want to give a couple people some shout outs right now. Before I let you go, people I met down there that were pretty great and awesome. All right, so I got to say, first and foremost, thank you to Mike, the Marine, Donahue George, and Dave Stiles for putting this whole thing together and really organizing us. Jeremy Farmer, the CEO, was awesome. He took care of us out there. I got to say, what's up to Adam from Evolve Radio and Skids, Joe and Heather from Caliber, Tom and his wife from New York, what's up to you guys? You guys are great. No Limit Soldier was out there supporting us. And Christina Copeland, who is going to be the producer of the new Wall Street Conspiracy movie. I hope I didn't forget anyone, but if I didn't mention your name, you will probably be in Friday's video. From the connections made over the weekend, we will definitely have some live streams and some interviews coming up with some of these people about what the future holds. And we are laying the groundwork right now for NYC Occupy 2023. It is already in the works, and we are trying to create buzz around it right now. But we definitely rose some awareness this weekend. Getting on Charles Payne was big. And I'm just really proud of everyone who came out there and made a stand. All right, guys, I'm going to let you go. As always, thank you for the likes, the views, the comments, my new subscribers, my OGs. I appreciate each and every one of you. We are here to break the wheel. This is Ape Nation. I'm the Massalorian, and I'm out.